Hey there, Nick here. In this video, we're going to take a look at a shell script that I created recently, but specifically focus on features such as creating a why no prompt where a user can enter in either y for yes and for no and nothing else, because if they enter in something else, it's going to keep repeating until they enter in either y or n. We're also going to go over how to create multi-line strings using Heredoc and the cat utility. And also we're going to go over how to do inline edits on multiple files. For example, if you wanted to recursively do a find and replace and update some text, we're going to go over how to do that in a cross-platform way. For example, we're not going to be using sed for that because sed works a little bit different on macOS and Linux, because on Linux it uses the GNU version of sed, whereas on macOS I'm pretty sure it uses the free BSD version, and the -i flag works a little bit different between the two. So we're actually going to end up using Perl for that, which works just the same on macOS and Linux. And if you're using Windows like me with WSL2, then you're going to be good to go because that is running Linux under the hood. So this repo here is a Docker Flask example app, and it is available on GitHub here. And the file we're going to be looking at is in the bin directory for rename project. Now, I have not made a video about this project yet, but that is something I'm going to do in the future. But for now, just understand that this is meant to be a project that you clone down and then build your app upon it, right? This is basically like a starter kit or a starter project or an example app. And I wanted to create this rename script because the example app right now is named hello, but your app is not going to be named hello. And it would be a little bit tedious if you had to go in there and make surgical edits to 8 different files, rename this directory, that file, etc., etc. So this script is basically automating all of that, where you just type in the project name that you want, and then 2 seconds later, everything is good to go. Now, I actually don't want to run or use this script in this directory here because, this is the repo linked up to GitHub. I know I could do a git reset hard, whatever, but I'm actually just going to copy this directory here, which is my Flask directory, to my home directory. What am I doing? Not cd, copy. There we go. And then I'm going to go into Docker Flask example. And I guess before we get into this, it probably will make sense to run the script first so we can see how it works. So I'm just running bin rename project here. And right away, if I don't enter in anything, it's going to say, hey, by the way, you need to enter in the lowercase version of your app as well as a class or module name variant of it as well. So the first thing we'll do is, I guess we'll name this my app just based on the example. Not really important. But now we're going to get to see the first feature here, which is the why no prompt. Now, a little bit of context around this one. When you create a new project, it is going to end up doing a Docker compose down V. Again, that's not super important for here, but this is basically a destructive action. And I wanted to be very clear that, this is happening after you hit yes and nothing else. So if I type in something like this or an empty string like that or whatever, then it's going to keep repeating until I enter in either Y or N. So I'll hit N here to cancel everything. That's it. The script halted. We're done. But let's rerun this here and hit yes, and we'll see that it's going to run a Docker compose down. Project's been renamed successfully. And now you can also maybe create a new local Git repo if you want. So let's do yes for that one as well. And everything is good to go. We can see a new Git repo was initialized. And now technically a little bit of context for the script. You could remove the script now because you're done, but you can also keep it around because maybe you want to rename your project later. That's actually something that I do pretty frequently, right? I might start a project, not be 100% on the name, but I do want to start working on the project. Then maybe after I'm developing it for 3 weeks, I actually go and want to rename the project. So, having the script around even afterwards is a little bit handy. So that's how that works. And by the way, there's no branch being shown here because the script will not add everything and commit things for you because, maybe you're not ready to commit stuff, but we can see here, it's been all set up with the main branch there instead of master. We'll see how that works in a second too. So let me just go here and take a look here at the script. That's how it works, by the way. And I know I didn't mention this at the start of the video, but when I ran the script, it made sure that I had both the app name and the module name defined. And the app name is the lowercase version and module name is, the uppercase version like this, camel case or whatever. So this is one little trick here, right? You can do -z on a variable to see if it's undefined. So if either of these are undefined, then we just exit one with this little message here, and $0 is going to get the current script name. So if I actually go back here and rerun the script here, just like that, then $0 here happens to be the script that we ran, right? Bin and then rename project. So yeah, I'm doing the same thing here, similar kinda. So this one just compares the app name to the find app name. In this case, this used to be named hello, but now, we actually rename stuff. So this file got inline edited to be my app and my app. But this one just protects us from rerunning the same command with the same exact argument. So, if the current app is the new app that you're putting in, then there's really no work to be done. So we just exit early there. And here's the first case of doing a multi-line string using Heredocs. Now, Heredocs are kind of nice. In my opinion, they're one of the cleanest ways to make multi-line strings using shell scripting or bash. And it's really the syntax here where we're taking this entire string and we're basically just feeding it into the cat utility. Again, I'm not a master on exact implementation details, but that's kind of how it works in practice, right? When this part of the script gets evaluated, then this is going to be output to the screen, just like we see it here. So this trailing new space was very deliberate, right? Because I didn't want this Docker compose down V output with the dashes here to be right on top of this text. So if I rerun this script again with like whatever, like cool or something like that, then we can see we do have that little space there. That's because of the extra trailing space. So whatever you put here is going to be in the script, right? If I rerun this, it's going to be like, 5 or 6 spaces, whatever I put there. So, what you see is what you get is basically what I'm trying to say here. And you can have leading spaces, like basically whatever you want. So very nice, in my opinion. EOF here stands for end of file. If you start Googling around, like how to do Heredocs with bash, you'll just find EOF being used as a label. Technically, the only important thing is that they both match. They don't need to be named anything specific. I mean, maybe there's some keywords that you can't use, but EOF, I can't really go wrong here. Now, it's kind of interesting, and we're going to unwind this one in a second here, but there's other multi-line string examples in this file. So I kind of want to focus on that before we jump into a different topic. But notice here that this is technically, outputting multiple lines of text. We have, all these dashes here with a couple of new lines. And then we also have this Docker compose down V, because if we rerun the script here and actually do this, then we can see all the dashes here, the output for Docker compose down V, and then the other dashes there. That's basically all of this. Now, this could have been written as a Heredoc. And the reason I didn't is because, and this is kind of interesting, I guess, like if you're a Python developer, Python usually, it has this mantra or, the guidelines or whatever. They say that there really should only be one way to do something, but a lot of other languages like Bash or Ruby and, other ones as well, there's usually a lot of ways to do the same thing. And, this is another way to do a multi-line string. And I could have used, echo as well with like a different flag to support doing -n. But in this case, in this specific one use case, I found this to be a little bit cleaner than using a Heredoc, because if I take something like this, right, like this cat Heredoc, and, you don't have to worry about EOF being used twice, by the way. They just, they're in their own blocks there. If I do this, first of all, this is invalid syntax. So this last EOF, it needs to be the first character of the line. That's like one potential gotcha. And another gotcha, well, this is not really a gotcha, but, this is what you see is what you get. So if I actually rerun this here, and I'm going to have to put in like a different app name here, I guess, and I do yes again, notice here that all of this is actually indented quite a lot, right? Because it's what you see is what you get. So the indenting here, it is actually literally being output with that. Now, I could have technically have just, put this back here like this, and, suddenly this would work. I could run that in a shell or a subshell, whatever. Actually, we'll see an example of that soon. But, to me, this looks just not quite as nice as this, because, we're inside this case statement for the yes over here, and suddenly like a million things are like, aligned at the first character of the line. It's like not indented well. So that's kind of why I chose to use printf here instead. Now, technically, either one could have worked. Maybe you prefer using the multi-line string here, like the Heredoc version. Totally fine. Use it if you like it, right? There's no special rules here other than just use whatever you think is correct. But here using printf, we can explicitly add new lines how we want them. And this is actually pretty fun. Totally side topic, but still related to the shell script. You can't just printf a whole bunch of dashes or dash or whatever, because it's going to throw some error. I actually forgot the error, but the TLDR is to make it work. You actually need to pass in dash to printf to actually be able to print out lines that start with the dash, or yeah, I think just one dash or maybe two. But in this case, it actually starts with a new line, so we didn't have to do it there. And that's why this is actually one character long. It's not because I accidentally put one too many dashes there. It's because there's one extra character here, and I wanted the dashes to actually line up in the output here, which they all do. So that's why it's just a little bit longer, because instead of a space, we have 2 dashes. Yeah, so that is basically that. But before we move on to other stuff in this file, there is another example of using Heredoc here, right? For your project has been successfully renamed. No problem there. You can see I have leading spaces and trailing spaces. Also named EOF. It's all, lined up correctly. And in this case, when it comes to initializing the Git repo, I am using the same Heredoc strategy here as well. But in this case, I'm just running a Git init in a subshell. So you can totally do that, right? You can do variable interpolation here. You can run subshells. You can do whatever you like. Actually, down here is another really good example of a Heredoc, right? It's not a really good example, but it makes sense, right? We have all this text here. If I had to like enter in like 50 different, backslash ends there or whatever, it would be pretty ugly. But in this one, we can see we are interpolating this find framework variable, which is defined up here, which happens to be Flask. So that is creating multi-line strings. We saw a couple of different ways to do them. Now let's go over the why no prompt. And that is this while statement here. And, we're not going to like excruciatingly go over every single character, every single everything. This is basically like, how do you create a why no prompt in Bash? You Google it, you find a Stack Overflow answer that has like, 1800 upvotes. It looks reasonable, so you copy it and then you paste it in here. Then you change your message to what you want. Then you add a -r here because of ShellCheck, because the answer in Stack Overflow didn't have that. And then you basically put what you want on the yes, and then you break out when you hit the yes. Or if you hit no, then you just completely exit out the script. And, I didn't put an explicit exit code there, but it's going to exit 0 because technically we're not really exiting because of an error like this, because, you incorrectly put the arguments. In this case, we're just exiting out normally, so it's going to exit 0. But that's basically how this works. But, it's a while loop, so it's, looping forever. It's going to loop forever, read in the input from the user. Did we get yes or no? Yes, we got yes, cool. We got no, no, or we got something else. Then we just echo nothing and get out of there. That's basically like, the TLD version of how this works. Now, about this why no, technically, this is a variable that you can put any name that you want. Yn seems pretty reasonable because, we're accepting either y or n, yes or no. And then also here, yeah, you can put more spaces here if you'd like. I put one space there so we can see in between where the user types, like me here, there's one space there with a question mark. If I didn't put that in there, then it's going to be right on top of it. If this weren't a question, I guess you can always do that, but it is a question because, we're asking them yes or no. But, you're in full control over what you want to do there. Now, as for the -r thing here, if I actually get rid of that, I believe things are still probably going to work the same. But if I run ShellCheck, which is a linting tool, I've done a video about this one. I'll link that one in a card. It is actually going to say read without -r is going to mangle backslashes. And you don't want mangled backslashes, clearly, because that's SC 2162, a rule there that you need to adhere to. So let's bring that back there. And we're good to go. I mean, actually, you know what? I want to see what's going to happen here. If I put a backslash in there, is it going to get mangled? Let's see. So I guess I need to do a third one here. Nope, that looks pretty not mangled to me. What if I do, I don't know, 2 backslashes, like hello or something? Like, I have no idea what's happening now. Let's see. Okay, so it got rid of one of them because I escaped it. I don't know, that doesn't look not mangled, but again, I'm not the professional here. ShellCheck is an amazing tool, so I'm going to totally trust that it's there for a reason. But that is basically how to do the why no prompt. I'm doing it again down here, right? Same exact pattern, slightly different question, all the same flags. But in this case, I'm just running this function here called init-get-repo, or init-get-repo when you do yes. Otherwise for no, same deal as before. And that init-get-repo here, that just, if we do have a directory called .get in there, then we're going to delete it. Then we're going to initialize a new repo, and then also we are going to set the main branch instead of using master by default. So at the time of making this video, I am running Ubuntu 2004 LTS, and the version of Get that I have, I don't know version offhand, like 2.28 or something like that. Okay, 2.25. It doesn't default to using the main branch instead of master. So this is a quick way to have things set up to where it is going to use the main branch by default. But that is basically that. So now let's go over this fun little chunk of code here, which is doing the inline edit recursively to a whole bunch of different files that it finds, as well as doing a folder rename as well. Because if I open up this directory here, we can see this cool tool folder here, that was named hello here. So if I actually go to the repo, we can see the directory was hello, but the last time I ran this rename script, I think I used cool 3 or 2 or whatever. Let me see. Yeah, tool. Oh yeah, it's 2, not 3 because I canceled this one out. But there we go. Right, so that's everything working. Let's go over the script a little bit more. So it looks a little bit more crazy than it needs to be. Well, it needs to be this, but there's a lot of variables in here, right? So all these variables are defined at the top of the file here, where it's like, there's the app name, there's the module name, there's the framework name, as well as, $1 first argument, $2 second argument. Always a good idea to actually name those to be human readable names, because it's a little bit easier to understand what they are, especially when you're doing stuff like this, right? Like finding and replacing. We totally want to find the actual find app name and replace it to the argument coming in from the script. Likewise, with these Perl commands doing the inline edits, this is very, very similar to how sed would work. You can just imagine for a moment, close your eyes, and this is the sed command, and you're using -i, and you don't have the PE there. Like, this looks very much like doing an inline edit with sed. And what I'm really doing here, right? It's like, well, we want to get the app name and the framework because, and then this is a little bit specific to this project, but there is a composed project here that is named cool2 now, but if I go on GitHub here into the example file, it's actually called Hello Flask. So when I do this, let me go back to here, this is actually doing the find app name, which would have been hello, and the find framework was Flask. So it's basically looking for this string hello Flask, and it's also looking for the string hello. It needs to be in this order. It's very important because we need to find the more specific one first. And then it's going to do the replace part here, which is replacing it with the app name that you put in this case, cool2, right? Really weird names for this example now since I just typed those in here, but that's the way that works. And then, we're just running find here where we're using the exec flag. And for all the files that it finds, type file in this current directory, it is going to run this command here. I didn't plan to really go over this in super detail, but this is sort of how it kind of works high detail wise. But on every file that it finds, right, it is going to look for these match here and then do the replacement on that globally. And this little bit at the end, to me, this is just like, of course you need that because then it works, because if you don't have that, then it doesn't work, right? I literally have no idea. I know, of course, this is to extend things, so we can write stuff on multiple lines, but this part has always kind of been like magic-y to me, but it works. But then we're just stringing together another command here where we're doing the same exact type of find here, rerunning that Perl in-place edit, and this time we're going to do a replace on the module name, the find module name with the actual module name globally, and then same thing. And then finally, we're just going to move this one directory here, which was this directory here, the cool2 one, that's going to be renamed from hello to cool2. And that's it. And then if I go and do a search in this project, probably not going to find too many instances of hello there or hello. Yeah, it's not going to find them. But if I do one for cool2, then it's going to find all sorts of ones, like everything is all set up and ready to go. So that's how that works. Did I do uppercase cool? Yeah, I did. So if I do a search here for cool2 like that, then we can see here things have been renamed where they need to be renamed. In the case of the Flask one, technically the uppercase variant is not really being used for that much, but it's there because, may want to do that in the future. And this script is actually being used on a number of other web frameworks as well. Other example apps that I have for Django, Node, Rails, Phoenix, and a couple more on the way as well. But yeah, that's basically how this works. It's a little bit scary looking, right? A lot of commands being chained together, a lot of backslashes, multi-lines, and variables. But, once you unwind it, it's really not too bad at all. And yeah, that's basically, the core of the script. I call this out here because in the documentation, if you're not comfortable writing a shell script because it may modify files in your system, whatever, you can always just go in here and unwind this and, run things on your own. So, that's kind of why the script existed, right? It is going to Docker compose down for you, delete the old database that it needs to do, and then it's going to rename all sorts of stuff for you, maybe make a new Git repo for you. It just saves you from having to copy paste commands. But the really interesting part, and I guess not like, really interesting, and by the way, we're done going over the shell script for now. I didn't just wake up and do this, right? So if I actually go to my Git history for the repo, then this started as just being documentation in the README file. Like, by the way, set this variable on the terminal, set this other variable, like the lowercase name in the module one, then copy paste the script into your terminal, hit enter, and then run like the git init and blah, 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 blah. So eventually I was like, you know what? And this happened yesterday. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to add a customized script to help rename the project. And that script is what we're looking at here, although this one's a little bit different because I named it customize. And, some of the logic was a little bit different. I changed some stuff around, but it's basically the same thing. But you know how it is when you try to sleep at night, right? Your brain is like,
Nick, remember that script you made earlier? You named it customize, but customize is actually a pretty crap name because what are you customizing, man? Are you customizing like the framework that you're using for CSS? Are you customizing like app packages that you can install? No, idiot. It's actually rename project. So that's what you should use.
So at around like 11:58 p.m., I decided that the project this customized script really needs to be named rename project. And then, I started getting trolled all over the place by my brain, and it was like found all these like different bugs in the script or things that I should change. And it was like,
Nick, you're trash. Why even go to bed now? You're a maniac. You put this out in the world and it's horrible.
So then I woke up in the morning and yeah, that's what I basically did in the morning. I fixed all that stuff and I figured now is the time to make a video about it because it's pretty stable at this point. And it's been through a couple of rounds of refactoring, right? That's basically the takeaway from that. It didn't just start as what we just saw. It started as manual steps, then an okay implementation with maybe one bug here or there, and then it molded itself into this over the course of probably like, I don't know, 2 hours, 3 hours of dev time, and a little bit of getting trolled at night trying to sleep. So that is basically this video. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up because it helps a lot. If you have any questions about this script, let me know in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer all of them. I didn't go over every single line. I've gone over stuff like this in previous videos, right? Set E is going to make the script fail. If it comes across any error in the script, and this is actually why I protected removing get here with making sure we have a get directory first, because if I didn't do that, and we just tried to remove it and it didn't exist, then with the set E, it is going to fail. So that's why I had that protection there. And with O pipe fail, basically, if we're using pipes here, then it is, and I actually don't think we are even using any pipes here, but if we were, then if any part of the pipe fails, then it would just stop right there instead of trying to continue on to the next command. But yeah, that's it. With that said, thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you in the next video.